Morning, everyone. I'm going to talk a little bit about post 9/11. It's really just a brief that, if you separate, you'll understand what your benefit is that you're getting, and then the piece, at least, when you're transferring it to somebody else, that you could speak on their behalf as well and be educated on the benefit. I'm going to do just a general overview, a little bit of information, eligibility and use for the post 9/11, the benefit itself, the authority and guidance, and VA resources. Something I didn't add on here was the forever GI Bill, because the GI Bills are changing. They don't take effect till August of 18. But I do have a handout, and it breaks out all the different things that are changing. This is when the post 9/11 took effect, 1 August of 09. The VA actually administers the program. I can facilitate. I'm brand new at doing the retention office manager, so sometimes I know enough to be dangerous, but I'll do my best for you guys. The VA does determine eligibility, and I'll talk a little bit more on that, what makes you eligible for that. Through my office, through NGB, we actually approve the transfer. It'll just sit out there pending. So you have to make sure you come and see me if you did a transfer. There is no cash contribution. And the entitlement itself, I'm going to get into the tuition and fees, housing, stipend, like that. Eligibility and use. This is what makes you eligible for post 9/11. You need at least 90 days of either Title 10, AGR, or active duty time. And that gives you, and I'll show you the breakdown a little bit in another slide, you actually get 40% with only 90 days. Serve at least 30 days Title 10, active duty, or AGR to receive a disability discharge. The member must take election through the VA by mail or online. Most people do it online. The IEDT, this is, as soon as you have 2 years of active duty time, you can count your IEDT time when you went to basic in your tech school. That will count, but you have to have 2 years in first. For myself, I had post 9/11. All I got it through was my AGR time, which was 3 years. The unique thing, when you get post 9/11, you have to give something up. So you usually give up your Chapter 1606, which is your GI Bill for part-time. Now, I only had 2 months left. So I only got 14 months, because you can only get 48 months between any 2 GI Bills. So luckily, with that, I gave that to my daughter, and we'll get into transfer a little bit, and she was able to go to UB for free, because I took the BAH and I didn't tell her that it was coming, and I kept it, and I back paid her tuition with that, because there wasn't enough time to cover the entire thing. Service Academy time does not count, nor does any kind of ROTC time. That doesn't count as well. Here's the breakdown a little bit. This is going to change the handout that I have for the Forever GI Bill. These all change. So the bottom one will go to 50%, but I don't know the exact date of when that kicks in. But I wanted you guys to have a handout, because when you separate, these things might affect you down the road, and you might not have that luxury of knowing about that Forever GI Bill. Your eligibility period, again, this is time after 9/11. That's when they counted. That's why they call it the post 9/11. While you're on Title 10 or Title 32, as I mentioned, 15 years from date of last active duty discharge. This stuff is all going to change with the Forever GI Bill. With our mission now, you have onesies and twosies with a lot of this time. It doesn't have to be that consecutive days. Chapter 33 is the post 9/11. It covers, when you're going to school, covers tuition and fees. I'll use myself, like for my daughter, we got no bill. That's the worst school. UB's the worst school for fees. They covered all the fees. There was a book stipend that came, which I actually went into my account. I set it up where I went into my account. I just gave her the money when she needed the books. And the monthly housing allowance also went into my account. Yellow Ribbon program I'll talk a little bit about in a couple of slides later. That's where the college and the VA kind of come to an agreement to cover your tuition if it's more than what they'll pay. This is what's covered. Traditional Guard members not on Title 10. Remember, if you're an AGR and you're using this, you're not going to double dip on the BAH. If you're an AGR and you transfer it to your wife, you still don't get BAH. It's per household. When you transfer it to a dependent, they don't have to live. They can live with you. Let me put it that way, because they're not your spouse, if you will. Payments are based on the highest in-state tuition and fees. That's where I mentioned about the Yellow Ribbon. So like if you went to NU and there's an agreement there with Yellow Ribbon, they would offset, and the VA and the school would come to an agreement, and basically you would still have no fees. But there's limitations on that too. Payments based on tier level member qualifies for. Remember, it's between 40% and 100%. And like I said, for myself, I only had 14 months, but I was at 100%. So you might have 36 months and you're at 40%. So it's all based on the percentage you're getting and then the months and the amount of months that you have. I will say, because this happened with my daughter, if you have 1 month into a semester, they'll pay that whole semester. It did happen for me. Because I didn't have a lot of time, but it did work that way. Payments will not exceed the actual cost of the tuition and fees. All Chapter 33 eligible participants, basically that's just a statement that everyone who's using this, it applies to them. The VA makes the payments directly to the school. You will go see a VA rep, it gets set up, and you just go there. I think my daughter had to go there with the transfer once a semester, and that was it. The VA posts a list of each state's maximum amount of in-state tuition per credit hour. Again, it's a VA program. The monthly housing stipend applies to students not on active duty, as I mentioned. If you're a student and you're an AGR, you're not going to double dip. You must be in the school at least 51% of the time. The BAH is based on where the school is located, okay? The housing allowance is BAH for E5 with dependent rate. Monthly housing stipend a little bit more. Again, it's based on, what is it? Solely online eligible. Oh, this is if you're going online. They're not going to, there's no school, so they're going to base it on a national average. The allowance is prorated based on individuals. If you're 40 to 100%, you're not going to get the full rate. You're going to get 40% of the BAH rate, okay? That does go directly to whoever you set up in there. As I said, for myself, I set it up to my account when we did that, and I didn't tell her about it because I wanted to be able to help her out and pay for the whole thing for her. The student does not have to be paying rent, room, board. You're entitled to it anyways, okay? Does not apply to active duty members or their spouses, as I mentioned. This also comes directly to you. It came, once I think it was once a year. It wasn't like for the whole semester. So if you did the math, the 4167 times 24 comes out to be like roughly $1,000. Yeah, lump sum each semester, paid directly to the student. Non-college degrees, I mean, you could go to school for certificates and different things like that, so they're not going to pay you the full rate if you're doing something like that, okay? Prorated based on individual's payment tier percentage. This is a little bit about the yellow ribbon. The program's run through, they call it an IHL, it's a institution of higher learning. They voluntarily enter into this agreement, okay, with the VA. So the tuition and fees, if they exceed that state number that I talked about, they go both ways where they're trying to help you out and not have you pay that full rate. Not all schools do this, and there's a limited amount of people that can qualify for that. So you have to talk to them when you go to the school. Payments are made right from the VA. This is the caveat. You can only use the yellow ribbon program if you're 100% post 9/11, okay? So if you're at 80%, you can't go to the school and say, hey, I want to take advantage of the yellow ribbon program, because you need to be at 100%. First come, first served. There's limited amounts that the school just doesn't do it for everybody that's post 9/11 eligible. They limit the amount of people that can use it. And then you could go to that website right there. You could Google it as well, but you can go to the website and see who participates, which schools do it. This piece, being that people are retiring, we want you to understand the nuances with transferring the benefit. You're eligible to transfer your benefit once you have, I think you have to have 10 years in. It's 6 or 10 years. I have the numbers out on my desk. But you transfer the benefit and you incur a 4-year obligation. So if you're retiring, you have to, need to come and see me, because we have to look at your statement of understanding at the time you signed that, because you incurred that 4-year obligation. There are some ways of getting out. It'll talk a little bit about if you separate for cause or medical, a force reduction. There's some ways that you can still keep the transfer, okay? Members must transfer benefits while serving. So if you get out, you can't transfer it anymore, okay? You had to have done it before you retire. Members are no longer authorized to transfer benefits to dependents not already designated in the TEB to receive them. What that means is whoever's in Deers, whoever you put into that Mill Connect, I had 2 of my children and one was too young to use the program, you can distribute that in there. Once you retire though, that's kind of locked in whatever you have in the system, okay? Members are advised to split benefits as truly desired. Once the member passes away, TEB request is set in stone. That's as I mentioned. So whatever you have in there, if you're wanting to change that, you have to actually talk to the VA about it. But if you pass away, whatever's locked in there, that's set in stone. Yeah, here it is. Members must serve at least 6 years in the armed forces before they can do the transfer, okay? And then you incur that 4-year additional obligation. Can revoke or modify a transfer request of unused benefits anytime while serving. So you can go in there and manipulate that at any time. We always recommend that you leave a month for yourself so that you can speak on, see, once you give all of it up, you can't speak on the benefit anymore because you gave it to everybody, the people that are in Mill Connect. So we always recommend keep one for yourself. You could talk on their behalf. You can move it around in there. If you have another child, you can distribute it evenly after the child's born. So transfer up to 36 months. As I mentioned, I recommend to people to keep 1 month. I only had the 14, but I was at 100%. So, and there it is with the stepchild right up there. So as long as they're in Deers, you can manipulate that in the system. That second last bullet, can we transfer benefit to a new dependent while serving? So once you're not serving anymore and you have another child, for example, you can't manipulate that any longer, okay? Retirees or separated members can only revoke or modify through the VA, okay? So once you're out, you want to make any changes, you have to work through the VA to do that. Transfer to a spouse. So your spouse can use the benefit after a military member has served at least 6 years. So let's say you did the transfer, it's all approved, your wife can start using it while you're serving, okay? Again, if you're an AGR, you're not getting the BAH. Not eligible for housing and stipend if you're an AGR or Title 10, which we have a lot in our current mission. You do get the books and the stipend. Can use benefits if divorced after the transfer unless revoked by the transfer. Can use benefits up to transfer's 15-year eligible period unless transfer specifies an earlier date. That's going to change with the Forever GI Bill. They're making all kinds of changes with that. Your children can transfer to unmarried children under the age of 21 or if in college under the age of 23 in Deers. May use benefits after transfer has served 10 years in the armed forces. Will receive full veteran benefits even if the transfer is on active duty. Housing and book stipend. You may use the benefit until the age of 26. These are for children regardless of the transfer's eligibility period. And may continue to receive benefits after marriage. It has nothing really to do with that because you gave it to them before they were married. So when you transfer the benefit, as soon as it's approved, you incur a 4-year obligation to have that actually set in stone. If you got out before that 4 years, we'd have to read the statement of understanding that you signed at the time. You'll lose the benefit. They'll have to pay it back. We had one member that I think he was serving in that obligation period, had a 1-day break in service. He potentially would have had to pay that back. We had to manipulate and cancel the enlistment and redo his paperwork because he would have lost like almost $100,000 because he gave it to his wife and she used the whole thing. So there's a lot of things that can affect that. It's a huge amount of money that they're giving you. This is the Cadillac of all GI Bills. If you know that you can't make it to that 4-year obligation, yeah, you can't do it. If you're going to be getting out because of a force reduction or a medical discharge, there's some other ways that you could still do it, okay? So depending on your situation, you might still be able to do it.